Hi, my name is Daria and welcome to Politeka World Show. And today we have a guest, an expert of the Foreign Policy Council, Ukrainian Prisma, Ivan Us with us. Ivan, I'm happy to have you here.
Happy to be here and my greetings to all our viewers.
Yeah, so let's start from not good news at all. This weekend for Ukraine was very bloody, especially for Dnipro town. Around 30 citizens died when the rocket hit the building where a lot of people. So let's understand how do you estimate the reaction of the international partners of Ukraine?
Of course, our partners, countries that try to have a good relationship with Ukraine, they said that it's actually not an act of war, it's a terrorism. That's why the head of the foreign policy ministry of Albania, one of the European countries, and potentially a future member of European Union, and Albanian Ministry of Foreign Affairs made such a statement in his Twitter that is an act of country that is a sponsor of terrorism, terroristic organization, but not country that is a member of the Security Council. It's a big question, a question that I'm sure will be repeated by many politicians. Now we see how a lot of people made statement where they said that it's a bad act of Russia, but let's be frank. I think that statement that Russia should be sent out of the Security Council of the United Nations, that is the main results that we expected. Ukraine expected when a lot of countries says that it's a terrorism, but next question, okay, how the terroristic country could be, they keep silence. So that's why I'm really glad that we have such statement, and the only things that I want to see is the same statement from other countries. Our leading countries of this world.
Yeah, but how do you feel? We know that Ukraine didn't have any capable weapons for shooting down this type of missile. Ha-20 rockets. So that's why we understand if we had such a defense system, yes, it calls Patriots, we are waiting for it, yeah, so this rocket wouldn't hit the building, and there weren't a lot of people deaths. Am I right?
Absolutely. So the question that Ukraine should have all possibilities to destroy all rockets attacking our country, not only civilian building. Unfortunately, Dnipro, it was direct attack on the civilian building. It's people who saw the picture understand that it's not one house. There is a large line of houses. One section or several sections of this building was destroyed, where unfortunately a lot of people died. But in this building, more than 200 people living. Just to understand for our viewers.
Yeah.
And theoretically, this rocket could kill all of them. But now at this moment we know about this section. Nevertheless, so Ukraine need have an option to destroy all those rockets, and first of all to know that this rocket will be the same day of this tragedy. There was attack on several parts of our country, including Kiev. And for example, personally, I hear explosions, and there was no air alarm.
Yes.
And the statement was, we are not detected the fact that there is a danger from actually air. And in that situation, of course, Ukraine needs those systems, not only for destroying them, but to know that this attack will be. Because what do we see in Kiev when there was explosion, and then we understand that it was a rocket attack. So that's why, of course, I expected the training of the Ukrainian soldiers for Patriot system that starts
in Germany.
In Germany, yes, by the United States of America specialists. So this training will not last for months. It will last for several weeks. I'm not a big specialist in this area, but we should understand that as soon those specialists will be ready and those system appears in Ukraine, the last victims will be in nearest future, because unfortunately it's not the last Russia attack for Ukrainian residential building.
But we know that similar attacks in Ukraine was in Kremenchuk, in Vinnytsia, when a lot of people died in civilian buildings, if we take the case, this one in Dnipro. Why we should have such cases for getting these aircraft defense systems? Why we couldn't get them before such such deaths happened and so on?
Of course, when we see all those tragic events in Vinnytsia and Kremenchuk, and let alone there was some other rocket attacks, for example, in railway station in Kramatorsk, in Nikolaev city that was constantly under shelling, but the only difference that both Kramatorsk and Nikolaev, it was hit by rockets situated not far away from the place. As for Vinnytsia, as for Polygon Lviv, where so was a lot of dead people in Yavoriv, of course, all that attacks was made by the rockets that was sent approximately from equator of the Caspian Sea or from not in close direction from Ukraine. So some people said that it could situated several, even 1,000 kilometers, 1 or 2,000 kilometers from Ukraine. That's why Russia has a lot of such rockets, and the only difference that initially they planned to use that rockets against big ships and against the United States of America, against European countries, and so on and so forth. So they prepared the rockets, knowing that they will attack the US.
So US knew that Russia would use these rockets against Ukraine. And they didn't help us solve such a problem when a lot of people could die and they could target even a civilian building. What do you make of it?
The main problem is that the world was not ready for such a conflict. And if we turn back to period before start of the war, the only weapon that Ukraine received from our partners, it was a weapon for so-called partisan war, because they were sure that Ukraine will be conquered by Russia for a really short period of time. We remember 3-4 days that American analysts give to Kiev, and then 20 days or 1 month for whole Ukraine. And that's why, of course, there was no preparation. Then, when everyone understand that the Ukrainian resilience against the attack of Russia is really very high, and Russia could not conquer Ukraine for such a short period of time, was a question really give to us more weapon, but our Western partners constantly thinking that, probably that weapons that we are giving to you will be enough. Unfortunately, it was not a serious system. Only step by step, Ukraine received more and more serious arm. So if we return to that period, even first or second months of war, a lot of statement was that we will never give to Ukraine tanks or some attacking weapon, because really it was such a fear in our partners in capitals.
So, but fear, US won't have fear after such a situation like Dnipro.
I think that such situation that Dnipro, ironically, it should influence on the next meeting of so-called Rammstein.
Yeah.
I'm sure, as actually previous attack. We remember the attack that happened in Kiev on the 10th of October, as I remember, when rocket hit it in the crossroad between Vladimirskaya Street and
near Shevchenko University.
Shevchenko University, yes. And then another actually place was a playground for children in the Shevchenko Park, not far away from that point. So actually, after that, Ukraine received more and more serious weapons. But let's be frank, unfortunately, our partners still could not make the decisions that let's give Ukrainian more serious weapons, because they still have fear that it could lead to the Third World War.
So Russia made an effort for Ukraine right now before Rammstein.
Yes, sometimes I have a feeling that Russia constantly want to check whether West is ready, because Russia think that such a attack on Ukrainian cities, murdering of civilian people, can lead to situation when in the Western capitals they said that, oh no, we could not give more weapon to Ukraine because it's only increase this war. But let's be frank, question not on the increase of this war, question when Ukraine finally can stop than Russia, and our partners in the Western world should understand that actually that weapon that now Russia used against Ukraine, they want to use the same weapon against their Western partners, because they will be the next. That's why European countries like Poland, like the Baltic countries, they're the main supporters of Ukraine. Not only because they love Ukraine, but because they understand that they're the next. And understanding that the other next, of course, change their mentality. That's why for our partners from US and UK, of course, my question, just first of all, to start this preparation, it doesn't mean that it didn't start, because you know that our partners from Israel, for example, they like to say that never talked about weapons that you received, that it will be surprise for Russia. And we don't want to have problems in our relationship with Russia, but we give you something, but Russia should not know about that. It's that in that situation, of course, I have big belief that in this moment, we are talking about that, the United States of America prepare all programs for Ukrainian soldiers to train them not only at the Patriot, because we know about that, but train, for example, on more serious weapon. Probably it could be Abrams tanks or something else, because there's more and more people who analyze war said that the role of tanks now decreasing. In that situation, that armored machine like the United States of America give to us and partners like Germany or France, sometimes it could help to us even more than tanks, because we could understand how work with them. And our partners, I'm sure that they are preparing us, because they will never give to us weapon before preparation. And the second moment, organized logistic, how to how to repair it. Because one thing to give something, the other organized repair procedure. And I really believe that in Western borders of Ukraine, I mean, first of all, Poland, there is enough opportunity to reconstruct destroyed weapon by Russia, I mean, destroyed armored vehicles and so on and so forth that Ukraine needs.
Yeah, also Ukraine should think about its own production of military munition, military stuff, and so on. So how do you perceive now the steps which was held by Ukrobonprom, to ramp up such military production? Could we see any real steps? Because as I know, it's only was talked about shells. This production was started, but the head of Ukrobonprom told that they started to do some missiles, but we couldn't see it. It's already 4 months after these wars.
Of course, always was a question whether Ukraine produce some arm, because really we have war, but we have war before that. On the one hand, I understand that it should be a secret, and it's normally that we don't know about that. On the other, we see using, for example, of missiles Neptune that helped to us to destroy the Russian cruiser Moskva, that played a serious role in this war, because let's be frank, after destroying of this Russian cruiser Moskva, the Russia chances to conquer Odessa and nearest towns actually was practically minimized, just because they lost their leading ship in their Black Sea fleet, and Ukraine produced that rockets. The other question whether we produced more ammunition to other weapons, and now it's a question that Ukraine should change its armor from, let's call it, former Soviet armor to new NATO armor, because more and more weapons that Ukraine received, it's not former Soviet Union, it's American.
Do we have such possibility?
I'm sure, yes. I think that it should be, of course, training, but I really believe that this procedure going on, and sometimes we hear a statement from our Minister of Defense that we made some ammunition, then I'm sure that the same production of ammunition should be seriously increased in our partners countries that help to Ukraine. First of all, Poland, because it's logistically important, because on the one hand, Poland and other countries can prepare themselves to potential war with Russia, but better strategically for them not to be prepared by themselves, but to give to Ukraine all those weapons and stop Russia here. As advisor of NATO Paul Massara said, that let's be frank, if not Ukraine, stop Russia in their territory at this moment, he told about that in May 2022, NATO would be in the war with Russia, but luckily Ukraine stopped it, and of course our partner should understand, like our president said, that helping to Ukraine, it's not just a helping to one country, it's investment in your own security, because as more Ukraine have war with Russia, as less chances that our partners would be engaged in this war. Furthermore, if Ukraine won this war, it means that our partners should not think about menace of Russia. And I think that the best variant for them to stop Russia here and to help Ukraine receive this victory, yes, it will be not a short period of time, but our Western partners should prepare for that. It will be some long period, but economically, it will be more interesting to them than to have war on their own territories.
Lately, we know that Russia fired around 100 missiles, even more, in Ukraine. But now we could see that the quantity of these missiles were decreased in 3 times minimum. Does it signify that the crisis in the military production of Russia started?
Yes, because we should return to the 21st of February when Russia have those plans. Not only Western countries said that Ukraine could lost in months or 20 days. Russia was sure that they have this months to win this war, and their preparation was for this month. That's why logistically they was not ready for it. And then when they understand that they could not solve their targets for the months or so, of course they decided to send more and more weapons, being sure that after that they can succeed in that. And Russia really has some successes, because after first phase of war that they failed, actually, then they decided to regroup it and pay more pressure on Lugansk region, on Severodonetsk, on Lysychansk, and we remember the intensification of the battle in that moment when Russia sent enormous quantity of weapons. Yes,
yeah.
But now, what do we see according to statistics? That the quantity of weapon used is start to be decreasing. Why? Because really Russia deposit is not so high. If you looked some, not even oppositional people in Russia, but at least people who are supporting this war but criticizing their government, they pay attention on such a fact that deposits of Ministry of Defense of Russia start to seriously decrease in the mid of 2022. And now, when those deposits practically come to zero, or at least not far away from that point, they could not have such high intensification of the battles. Of using of that war arm. And in that situation, they of course try to say that the economy will go, as they said, on the military rails. But if you want to have your economy on the military rails, that economy should be. And when you have problems in your economy, it's hard to rebuild itself.
Yeah, we will talk about economy a little bit later. It's just a few questions about military stuff of Russia. We know that publicly Putin recently briefed his officials that they produce not enough of weapons. But before, we remembered that Russian officials, military officials, they claimed that they would increase its military production by 30%, as I know. Yeah.
Yes.
So could we state that these plans don't work for Putin, for Russia. So, and even the commanders of Russia, they lied to Putin.
Actually, in Russia, a lot of things happening on paper. But, football is not played on paper, and the life so. And, of course, on paper, they said that, we increase production, we will have more weapon, and so on and so forth. So, but it happened for all those decades in Russia, when they said that, okay, we will do that, but then everyone forgot about those promises. Because one thing to say that we will do that, the other thing to actually to do that. And that's why in all those talks with Mr. Putin and all those business meetings with President Putin, all the personnel responsible for this area of Russian life, they said that everything will be good, that we have a lot of secret tanks and so on and so forth.
So they, all military commanders, we could state that they lie to Putin every day.
Yeah, because for them it's tradition. They understand that all Russia's system works in such situation when the main thing is to report. And they report that everything okay. But then when happens something wrong, and Putin start to ask them, they said that, we probably missed something. And that's why we have, there is even not a year of this military operation. There is a fourth commanders, yes, who were changed just because predecessors say a lot of words. Actually, then Putin understands that they lie. He changed them. The new people have the same life too. And then he returned the previous people. But it doesn't mean that something changed. He changed people, but it didn't influence on the course of events.
Sorovikin, Gerasimov, and so on. But don't you think that the change of head of the military army on the ground will give some advantages to Russia on the ground, on the battlefield, or it is not like that?
I don't think that the person who is a formal head of that operation can influence on something, because we know that decision making is President Putin by himself. So he could change those people just according to local battle inside Russia. So we understand that now in Russia there is at least two big group of people. One of them it's Minister of Defense, and people oriented on Minister Shoigu. The other group, people who criticized him. But the group that criticized him is not unanimous. Yes, we should understand that there is...
So there is no anonymity between the different groups, yes, in Russia?
More and more conflicts appears. Just one of them, it's actually lack of ammunition that we discussed before. And due to lack of ammunition, they give less this weapon to not official powers. When we are talking about private military campaigns like Wagner is one of the most famous around them. And they accuse Ministry of Defense that they not give to them weapon. Of course, it's influence on the conflict, because they are sure that Ministry of Defense want the problem of those private military campaigns just to show to Putin that they're the most successful part of this war, because each of them try to say to Putin that we are the best. And those local quarrels can seriously lead to a situation when in Russia in 2 or 3 months we could see actual battle between different groups of people. Furthermore, some people said that it's a battle for power, because some people sure that something will be after Putin, and each of those groups want to control Russia after that. Of course, now probably it's too premature to say about that. Nevertheless, we see background of that future war inside Russia.
But despite this, Russia prepares for something bigger, and even we could hear that Putin has put everything to war and so on. So could we expect that the quantity of cannon fodder on the battlefield, that we know that, for example, Russia will increase its army to 1 billion soldiers, but they don't have enough of military equipment on the other side. So could we expect any changes right now for us, for Ukraine, on the battlefield?
I'm not sure that this new mobilization, some people said that in Russia they have constant mobilization, can give a result. Because as I said before, economy was not prepared for that. Attempt to change those rails from standard life to military life,
But they just change the spending like that. So from one basket to another basket. It doesn't work?
I don't think that that's work. Just because, as I said, they don't have enough, let's call it so, enough sources for actually prepare this army. I try to return to previous time, so approximately March, when Ukraine sent their first soldiers for preparation, for training to Western countries. We expected that it can give results approximately at May. But May was without result, then June, July, August, no result at all. But on September, after half a year approximately of those preparation, those people who were sent to the training return. And what do we see? We see situation in Kharkov region when Ukraine released really large territory for a short period of time. Then it was very good operation against Russians in city of Kherson, because we are not attacked those cities like Russian do in Soledar, in Bakhmut, before that in Lysychansk and Severodonetsk. We press on them by destroying option to leave the city. And Russians understand that either they appear to be a hostage in the city or they leave it. That's why was the famous decision when they decided to leave city of Kherson. And that is more important, that whole their, let's call it, controlled by them territory on the right bank of Dnipro river. And there is no Russian in the right bank of Dnipro river. Yes, they situated on the left bank. Unfortunately, they constantly shelling city of Kherson and some other towns.
This is a big problem.
It's a big problem as for Kherson, as for Nikopol, and for other towns situated on the opposite side of Dnipro river. Nevertheless, there is no Russians on the right side of Dnipro river, and there is no menace for such cities like for Kryvyi Rog. Because the Russian presence on that part of Dnipro means it's starting position for attacking those cities. Now there is no such position. So in that situation, of course, Ukraine have absolutely different approach to this war, because we are not trying to attack some defended by Russia position. We try to surround them. While Russians like to attack defended position of Ukrainian army and to press on them just for constant attacks. In Kherson region, we see that some attacks of the Russian soldiers failed when they attempt to have attack Nikolaev at first. Actually, Russian soldiers practically wasn't Nikolaev, but they failed. And even better example, actually Severodonetsk and Lysychansk. Russia on the one hand conquered them, but it was so-called historically pure victory. In history, everyone knows that term. When Russia on the one hand conquers those towns, but they lost a lot of people. And when Ukraine organized counterattack in the Kharkov region, the fact that Russia don't have all those people led to the fact that we released it. Now the same situation happening in Soledar and Bakhmut. Now, yes, Russia attacked, but attacked it while losing people. And I have big belief that those people whom Russia now losing, those people will be not enough to Russia, who stay after that, to defend the territories that Russia can conquer. That's why even if we lost some territory now, I'm sure that we return it just because Russia don't have enough good prepared soldiers. And mobilization, as you asked, they can call the 1, 2, 3 million people, but they will not be armed. And army without good ammunition, it's potentially...
For sure. Yes, it's nothing. It's just a cannon dose that we will kill just in a few days.
Yes, and furthermore, we should understand that modern world differs from the war of the Second World War time.
Yeah.
As some Russians said that let's send a group of several thousand or several, I don't know, of course not 1 million, but a lot of soldiers, a lot of tanks and so on. And good experts said, guys, but in modern war, when you have, for example, HIMARS, those group will be destroyed by one shot. And you lost hundreds of your soldiers in a second. Let's be frank, it's not for Russia good, for at least for future course of events. But people who don't understand the modern war, of course, they talk about those big group of peoples, and such approach of Russia can lead to its defeat in this war.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit about the article which was published in the Wall Street Journal. So we read before a few months ago about the situation that the production, the military production in US isn't in a good condition, so they don't have what to send to Ukraine, and it was the manipulation, as I know. So that's why I would like to ask about this article. So it was said that the West is running out of shells for Ukraine, and on the other hand, we know that European countries and American, they all now ramp up its production. We could see it, and the statistics told us that it was increased by several times. So how do you estimate such publication of not good situation of the military production in US?
Actually, initially, yes, I agree with the statement that both US and European countries, they don't think about potentially war, and that's why they was not prepared. And one of the reasons why they didn't give to us a lot of weapons in the first phase of this war is that they don't have it. Now they organized production. Now there are companies in the United States of America which engage in this area, like Lockheed Martin, like Raytheon, like other actually corporations that work for military purposes. Now they received money because I remember that period in March, April 2022, when they said that give to us money and we start production. And as I remember, they received at least some promises from US government that now they receive this money just because the necessity in this weapon seriously increased. Because before that, no one think about the probability of such conflict, of such war. Now when they see that and they understand that the menace could be more serious if it could be not Russia, but for example, China, now we see the change of the global security map. We see like that countries like Sweden, like Finland, that before the 24th of February don't think about joining NATO, now want to be in NATO. Furthermore, Japan, countries that one of the largest economies in this world, they try to preserve their anti-war status. They constantly say that they don't have army, they have some police, some forces, but not more serious. Now they made the statement, no, we will rebuild our security sector, we will spend more sources in production of weapons, 2% from GDP that NATO requires from their member states, and not many countries actually have those 2%.
So now you are talking about some circumstances for the global war, geopolitical.
Yes, but returning to US and the opportunities, really now they return to this option. And when you have a good economy, and let's be frank, United States of America is the economy number one in the world.
It's true, but also as I know, there was a problem that, for example, US didn't approve some orders for these factories, American government factories to produce such weapons for Ukraine. Do you agree with me?
I agree because really they ask, show us money, and that's why those package of help to Ukraine is so important, because they see that they have this figure. So this famous package of $45 billion. At first, I remember that it was 37.7, as I remember. And after President Zelensky's speech in the Congress, in the US Congress, it's changed 45 billion. The largest amount of this money will send actually to organize the production of weapon needed to Ukraine. So it not only money for Ukraine, it's money for US producers of weapon, like I mentioned, the Lockheed Martin, the Raytheon, and all those corporations. Now, seeing that the money will be in the budget for 2023, they started to produce this weapon. And that's why it was so important to have this figure. And now we are ready to, at first, to know how to use it, and then actually to use it.
Yes, we have now a few minutes, and if we're talking about economic situation, excuse me, in Russia. So what we know for now is that Russia spends around $1 billion a day for the war in Ukraine. So taking into account all the sanctions, all the packets of sanctions which were imposed against Russia and so on, how will it influence the possibility to spend so much money every day? So let's understand what they have now from expert and so on, so on.
So about Russian export, of course, first of all, it's so-called 27 group. It's oil, it's crude oil, it's processed oil, and it's natural gas and coal, of course. We see that European Union that have a big dependence on Russia. 83% of natural gas imported by the European Union actually comes from foreign sources. And now we see that Russia, that was played the leading role in this area, is substituted by step, not absolutely by small portions, nevertheless by the United States of America, by Norwegian, by the Gulf region, by the state Qatar, which is the third actually country in the world according to gas deposits, natural gas deposits. So it means that they substituted Russia, and Russia losing money. Russia that have a lot of money due to export of natural gas and oil, losing those money just because they are substituted by other countries. The countries that still buying the natural gas and oil from Russia, I mean China, India, Republic of Turkey.
So will Russia have this opportunity to spend $1 billion this year? I mean,
I'm not sure. I'm not sure because, of course, Russia will spend all money to this war till the beginning. So Russia can sacrifice by their region, by the pension of their people, at least in some regions. That's why I'm not unsure that the next several months we see a situation when in some not of course Moscow and St. Petersburg, but some other part of Russia, there will be a big problem with pensions, with salaries for people working for budget, just because all money will be sent to military machine and to propaganda. It's two main articles where Russia spend all their money. But as those pie decreasing, I mean money that Russia received, those areas of people, I mean pensioners, it will be first, I think, by whom they can sacrifice. And they will sacrifice just because the quantity decreasing. And
so this pie will be decreased by how many percent?
Hard to say, but taking into account that the oil and gas give to the main share, as I said, according to my calculation, 2/3 of Russian export, it was this area. So I think that this pie can decrease at least to 1/3. It's the most optimistic for Russia estimation. I'm sure that even more.
So how many billion?
Oh, it will be practically 100 or so billion or even more. Now I try to calculate how many they sell and how many, because we should understand that if Russia, even when Russia sell some oil and gas to China, India and Republic Turkey, those republics, seeing this pressure on Russia, they constantly say that we could not buy this oil and gas according to price that asked. Please give to us some small sale or so on and so forth. And we know that the price for Russian oil now approximately, according to Bloomberg, $38, while Brent cost more than $80. It's a price, and in Russian budget, price $70. Just for understanding, it means that we at this moment have the whole in Russian budget, and as I remember, 2.3% of Russian GDP. It's information for the September, so I'm sure that information for January and February will be even larger figure.
Also, and also they spent already the money from welfare fund. But I really insist that our international partners will make more effort to cut supplies from Russia to other countries and so on. Don't have the possibility for Russia to finance this war.
Absolutely. So we're expecting for that.
Thank you, Ivan, for this interview. It was really fruitful. So thank you to be with us. And I would like to remind you that you could be subscribed to our YouTube channel, Politeka World, and see you in the next show. Bye.